Hello guys, it's KGCEpic here, and this topic is, does good and evil exist, and why you should believe in the existence of good and evil. Now, for starters, there are some people that are atheistic in this world for some weird reason, and they think that it is a comfortable lifestyle because they don't have to worry about going to church or praising the Lord or whatever, or for whatever reason they think that anything regarding Jesus and everything that He has done for us, everything that He constantly does for us, they believe that all of this is nothing but lies and just make believe and all this sort of stuff. Now, I would assure you for a fact that good and evil does exist, and based upon how you live your life and based upon everything that you seek to do as an individual, it would affect you in a certain manner, right? For starters, for the people who don't believe in Jesus, right? From my perspective of things, I personally have a very powerful faith. So I look at it from a very open perspective of the approach that you would take, right? So if I look at things from like one perspective, right? Okay, fine. Even if you didn't grow up in a very godly household, even if like based on where you live in, there aren't like Christianity is not as you know as like present in your living area, even if like all this sort of stuff is the case, and for some weird reason you have grown up far away from God. If you explore God as an option, if you have ever seriously explored God as an option, you would see for a fact that Jesus does exist. This is just how it is. And a lot of people do take the Christian faith for granted and all that sort of stuff. But if you have actually entertained the topic of Jesus in your life, you would see your life taking a change, taking a swing. And some people, when they look at it from one perspective, they think that having Jesus in your life means that you should always prosper, or you should always do this, or a certain thing should always happen to you, or like if like someone who praises Jesus isn't prospering, like some people would actually find that to be you're putting out all this time towards Jesus and you're not prospering, you're not this and you're not that, and some people actually like look at prospering from one perspective of just like something that is monetary, like in terms of like how much money you actually make, or how big of a house you actually live in, or all this sort of stuff. You have to remember that you gaining money and all this sort of stuff, this is not anything. This has nothing to do with your faith, really and truly. If, for example, Jesus chooses to give you a lot of money during life, that is just what Jesus chooses for you in life. Even if you don't make a lot of money, even if all this sort of stuff is the case, that does not mean at the end of the day you are not prospering. So some people look at it from a monetary perspective. You have to remember that materialism is not something that Jesus finds any worth in. So you have to keep that in mind as well. So and even if you're rich, does not, like I said, make you prosper. I see a lot of stories with a lot of rich people saying that they're sad on the inside. They're doing drugs, they're this and they're that, and at the end of the day, they don't know what to do with all this money they have, and you know um we you see so much people running after that money, and here a lot of people are actually having all this money and they still can't find happiness. They still at the end of the day can't you know uh reach a place in their life where they would be happy and comfortable and all this sort of stuff, right? So and that is just evident enough that money isn't it. At the end of the day, this is not what it means to actually prosper in life. And that the celebrities and stuff that you see being sad out there is just like one big hit in the face that at the end of the day, maybe you shouldn't always be running after money and all this sort of stuff. Money is like your number one concern in life. I personally speak a lot, and I live my life in a very happy manner, personally speaking, right? And when it comes to the existence of good and evil, Now, the reason why I phrased it as good and evil and not just Jesus is because sometimes you have Christians and then they refuse to acknowledge evil. Like, for example, we know that if you're a Christian, obviously, Jesus protects you from evil, right? But for example, if I walk up to somebody who's a Christian, some people can't legitimately have a conversation, and let me say the conversation runs on a topic of, okay, fine, demons have once existed or does exist or whatever. They're not comfortable like even uttering the word demons and all this sort of stuff. Like they think, for some example, something bad is going to happen to you or whatever, and that is just a reflection of your faith at the end of the day in Jesus. That if you, at the end of the day, if you're talking about Jesus and let's say it runs on a topic of the good and evil and all that sort of stuff, and I actually have a friend, so we actually had like this really heated discussion about it, and he you know doesn't want to even utter like anything in terms of like demons or anything, even if like we're talking about Jesus, and like I said, it runs on a topic of demons, because obviously if you're talking about some the spiritual faith and all this sort of stuff, that is an actual topic on it, right? And he would be like uncomfortable talking about it, so he would say, I would rather not talk about like demons and angels and all this sort of stuff. And that is just a reflection of your faith. And at the end of the day, it is just a topic. At the end of the day, whether evil exists in the world or not, it does not affect you as a Christian in terms of your safety. I mean, the only how I would say would affect you is that, okay, fine, evil exists and we should hate it, and we should pray for evil to not exist. So the only how it would affect you would be the prayers that you should offer to Jesus. That's the only way I see it, personally speaking. So even if you're a Christian and you cannot think about evil without being uneasy or being scared or whatever, then maybe you should check your faith a little bit, right? As for the existence of good and evil, um, if you read the Bible, good and evil is always present in your life, right? It is just something that constantly exists in your life, right? And at the end of the day, if you would actually like take some time and actually put some time out to Jesus at the end of the day, then you would see, okay, fine, certain things in your life would change, and maybe they weren't for the best. Maybe at the end of the day, that was just the evil in your life. Maybe at the end of the day, that is just how the devil affects your life. Like I said, I made a video a while back. I'm not sure which one it was, and I said that the devil is wicked, and he will do anything in his power to ruin your life. Like I said, if at the end of the day it is making a peanut butter sandwich taste bad, the devil would make that peanut butter sandwich taste bad. That is just how wicked it is at the end of the day, right? So you have to keep this in mind. At the end of the day, evil in your life doesn't necessarily have to be someone in your life that brings your life in a affects your life in a bad form or fashion. It doesn't have to be a literal demon in front of you. It doesn't have to be like a taunting voice in your head. It doesn't have to be anything of the sort that you would literally deem as being evil, right? It can be just something you do, like a habit you have, or just something in your life that makes your life take a negative turn. Because you have to remember, if you're doing something or you spend your time doing something bad, right? That is less time you're spending doing something good at the end of the day. You may never know the time you have taken that you spent doing this bad thing. If you had invested it in something good, and maybe your life would have taken a more positive turn. You have to look at it from that perspective as well. So you have to remember that at the end of the day, good and evil isn't something that is always as literal as some people take it, and you have to always aim to do good in your life. Remember, at the end of the day, Jesus does love us, and if you do praise his name and do all this sort of stuff, you will prosper at the end of the day. And Jesus never wants bad for us. Jesus has never asked us to do bad, and all this sort of stuff. So remember, if you're doing bad in your life, then it isn't that something that Jesus has planned for you. You have to keep that in mind, right? So yes, good and evil always exists, and even if you look at it from a non-spiritual perspective of things, you have to remember that Jesus is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So even if you look at it from a perspective of just like how we live here in the flesh, Jesus affects that as well. So regardless of however you look at it, if you believe in good and evil from in a perspective of your life in the flesh, then it is still Jesus. So why not still look at it from a perspective of spirituality and all this other stuff at the end of the day, right? Because you're kind of contradicting yourself. You have to look at it from all angles if you really want to grasp a concept of good and evil, if you really want to properly live your life in a manner that is pleasing to Jesus, or good, or whatever. You have to keep in mind that even if at the end of the day society deems you as a good person, or you deem yourself as a good person, then Jesus could probably change your life in a way that it is better. You could always be better. You have to remember that there is always better, which is gooder than the good that you do at the end of the day. At the end of the day, like I said, it could be a simple habit that you have, or something that you do at the end of the day that could just bring your life to a tragic turn, and all this other stuff as well. So in terms of the existence of good and evil, you shouldn't look at it from one perspective, or say that this perspective that I'm looking at it at is not related to a spiritual perspective of things, and all that sort of stuff as well. So this is just how I view the existence of good and evil at the end of the day. And if you guys do like this video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button, be sure to subscribe, and be sure to check out my other videos as well. I do have a few videos on Jesus. If you do want to see the videos only on Jesus, then you have to go on my playlist for religious videos, because I do have other videos on my channel as well, in terms of like gaming and anime and stuff like that. So if you do want only the religious videos, I have segregated them in a religious playlist. Like I said, share my videos. I have a link for my Facebook and Twitter in the description, and as usual, stay epic.